ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి, జేఈఈ అయినా, నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్.
Now let's continue about the same chapter, plant growth and development. Plant growth and development. Now what we have to discuss in plant growth and development, we were in the discussion about the two scientists, Charles Darwin. So let us talk about the very first one, auxin. Very first one is auxin. So in this auxin we are going to discuss about, in auxin mainly we have to discuss about the pathway called discovery. Okay, very important plant growth regulator, auxin. If you take, who is a scientist who studied about auxin? Charles Darwin and Francis Darwin. So we discussed this for the last class. Charles Darwin and Francis Darwin. Charles Darwin and Francis Darwin. Charles Darwin is the father and Francis Darwin is the son. Now we already have discussed, these two people have studied on Avena plant, that is Phalaris canariensis. We discussed that. And what is that they observed? The tip of the coleoptile tip of canary grass. Coleoptile means tip. Coleoptile of canary grass. Coleoptile, that is tip of canary grass. It is towards sunlight. It is bending towards sunlight or unilateral source of light. Unilateral source of light. So we are providing light only to one direction. Unilateral source of light is nothing but we are providing light only to one direction. When light is provided in one direction, there is a curvature, bending is happening in one direction. That one direction, the curvature what's happening here, they understood it is because of some chemical. It is because of some chemical which is causing the curvature of the tip towards a unilateral source of light. Why it's called unilateral? Towards one direction, it's called unilateral source of light. So some chemical is responsible for causing curvature or we say bending towards a light. What is that chemical? Still they have not identified. This thought some chemical is responsible for phototropic movement. Next, then people have taken other scientists, Boysen and Jensen. Guys, we have discussed about these two scientists, Charles Darwin and Francis Darwin. So we discussed about these two scientists, Darwin and Darwin. So for the last class, like Phalaris canariensis, coleoptile tips of the canary grass and all that we discussed for the last class, right? So let's continue with Boysen and Jensen. They are the scientists. What they have done is, they cutted the coleoptile tip. So they have done decapitation of coleoptile tip. Decapitation of coleoptile tip. That means decapitation, removal of cap. Decapitation is nothing but removal of cap, and they placed it on gelatin. So this is where is the gelatin. So this is where, this is what is called as gelatin. Okay, so what they do here, they cutted the tip here, they removed the tip here, and on the cutted stem they kept the gelatin. On the top of it, it is placed. So it is placed on the top of it. What is the tip? So this is here. This is here exactly. Okay, this particular tip is exactly placed on the top of gelatin. Nothing. What they have done in these cases, they removed this particular part and they kept gelatin on the top, again placed the tip. So what happens? The chemical component present in that, it's been absorbed by gelatin, and again they took this chemical and once again took the another plant, cutted it and again kept the gelatin over here. With the gelatin, all chemical got dragged down. So the chemical is completely absorbed into the tip. Okay, actually this much of introduction is not necessary. Simply what you have to understand here is simply they have cutted the tip of the coleoptile, they removed the cap. In between this and this they kept gelatin and they try to isolated the chemical. So they came to conclusion the chemical who is responsible for curvature may be so and so, but still they could not, they could able to they were succeed in extraction of this isolation of chemical. They could not able to find out what is this chemical. Again later, then who is the other scientist? F.W. Wendt. Who is the other scientist? F.W. Wendt. F.W. Wendt is a scientist who is responsible, who identified oxane. Chemically identified by F.W. Wendt. So mostly you will get the question that who identified oxane? Oxane is identified by F.W. Wendt. Oxane is being identified by F.W. Wendt. So this oxane chemically it was identified by F.W. Wendt by the test called, what is the test? By Avena curvature test. Avena curvature test. Very important. It was being disclosed by Avena curvature test, that's been isolated by F.W. Wendt, right. So in this case oxane is the one which plays very important role. Now what else is being discovered by oxane? Once oxane is identified by Wendt, later much of research work was organized on oxane and there were two more scientists, Taimin and Kogler. Okay, there are two more scientists, Taimin and Kogler. They also studied about a bioassay analysis of oxane. Bioassay analysis of oxane. What is this bioassay analysis of oxane? That's nothing but functions of oxane. In what way oxane has impact on living organisms? It's called bioassay analysis of oxane. What chemical is present and what is that function of that chemical on the plant metabolism. That's what we call bioassay analysis of oxane. Especially Taimin is also identified that Rhizopus. Rhizopus is nothing but what? It's a fungi. Rhizopus is nothing but what? It's a fungi. From fungus also they isolated oxane. Literally to extract 1 microgram of oxane they took 10,000 Rhizopus colonies. Okay, so 10,000 cultures were taken. 10,000 cultures for cultivation of Rhizopus called fungi, from which they could able to extract very small quantity. What is that small quantity? Or the small quantity is nothing but 1 microgram. They could able to extract 1 microgram quantity of the oxane. They could able to extract by taking 10,000 cultures of Rhizopus. Further, they have done lot of research work, and oxane is being found not only in case of plants, not only in case of fungi. Later, some other scientists they could able to also extract from the human beings. How? other scientists, apart from Thymin and Kogler, some other scientists, they identified auxin from different organisms. We studied from plant, auxin is identified with the help of Charles Darwin, Francis Darwin, then Boysen and Jensen with the great effort of other scientists like F.W. Went, and lastly from fungi rhizopus also it can be extracted with the effort of Thymin and Kogler. Later they isolated human urine. From the human urine they isolated what is called auxin A and corn germ oil. What they extracted, it's called auxin B, and they referred both of them as heteroauxin. Okay. What is that? From human urine, the people could able to extract the auxin, which were referred it as auxin A. From corn germ oil, people could able to extract what is called auxin B, and what it is referred as heteroauxin. It is referred as heteroauxin, means auxin has different compounds. Auxin has different compounds. Auxin exists in different forms in different organisms. So that's why it's referred it as heteroauxin. Now let us talk about characteristics of auxin. Characteristics of auxin. What are the characteristics of auxin we have to remember here? For example, if you look at this is the tip. Okay, so mostly the auxin will show what is called as basipetal movement. Mostly what it shows, it's called basipetal movement. What is basipetal movement? Auxins are synthesized somewhere at the tip and they get translocated here. So I am writing here, auxins mostly synthesized in apical parts or terminal parts and translocated to basal parts. And translocated to basal parts. I repeat again. Listen carefully. Auxin is also extracted from the human urine. It is referred as auxin A. From corn germ oil, they also extracted what is called auxin B. So auxin exists in different forms. So they started calling this as heteroauxin. They started calling this as what? Heteroauxin. So let us talk about characteristics of auxin. Now if you look at the characteristics of auxin, auxin exhibits what is called basipetal movement. What is basipetal movement? Most of the auxins are synthesized in the apical parts and translocated means they will transfer to basal parts. So here they will show the action. Maybe they can form the branch or maybe they can form the leaf. So the movement is from apex to base. Auxins are produced here and they get translocated. They move to basal part and there they show the function. That movement is called basipetal movement. So what is the definition we discussed for plant growth development? According to the definition of plant growth and development, the chemical compounds which are synthesized at one place, they get translocated to the other place to show their function. They are called plant growth regulators. They are called as what? Plant growth regulators. So auxins exhibit what is called basipetal movement. And if you look at the translocation, so here I will write about auxins. Auxins translocate at a rate of 10 millimeter. Auxins, they get translocates at a rate of 10 millimeters. Auxins, they will get translocates at a rate of 10 millimeters, means slowly they will get translocated for 10 millimeter, again slowly to again small distance called 10 millimeters, slowly with the 10 millimeter distance they will get translocated. So auxins gets translocated at a rate of 10 millimeter. Then does you think they always move from up to down, or they don't move from base to up? It's not that. In some cases, rarely, it also mostly it shows basipetal movement, rarely shows acropetal movement. Okay, mostly it shows basipetal movement, rarely shows acropetal movement. What is acropetal? Who is we are talking about? Auxin. Auxins mostly they show basipetal movement, meaning what? They get translocated from the apex to the base. From the apex to the base. Mostly they show basipetal movement, but rarely they also show acropetal movement. What is acropetal? They synthesize at the base, they get translocated to the apex. So the movement is from base to apex. Who is moving here? Auxins. Auxins get synthesized at the base and they get translocated to the apex. Then it is called acropetal movement. I hope you got the clarity. In morphology, in inflorescence, you studied very clearly about basipetal movement and acropetal movement, if you remember. Movement from apex to base is called basipetal. Movement from base to apex is called acropetal. Now, sometimes you may have the chance of getting the question. If the question is the ratio of basipetal to acropetal movement of auxin, basipetal to acropetal movement of auxin, then you have to take 3:1. Then you have to take what? 3:1. Ratio of basipetal to acropetal movement of auxin. How many times it is moving towards the base? Rarely. For every 3 times when it is moved towards the base, 1 time it moves to the apex. So this is the ratio as 3:1. 3 times if it moves to the from apex to base, maybe there has a chance 1 time to move from base to apex. So this is a question which you have to remember. Ratio of basipetal to acropetal movement of auxin is 3:1. Okay, so this is nothing but complete discovery of auxin. How it will move, from where to where it will move, mostly what, and what is the ratio from basipetal to acropetal. So this is nothing but discovery of auxin. Now if you look at the auxin has so many compounds. Some of the auxins, generally if you look at, they classified into 2 types. They are classified into 2 types. What are they? We say natural auxins, and other categories referred as synthetic auxins. What are the 2 categories? What are the 2 categories we can remember? Natural auxins, and second category is synthetic auxins. Natural auxins, they get synthesized naturally within the plant. They are called natural auxins, and if they are synthesized artificially in the lab, then they are called as synthetic auxins. Okay, I repeat again, if they are synthesized naturally in the plants or in the living organisms, we call them as natural auxins, and if they are prepared externally in the industries, outside the organism, in industries or using some chemicals, then they are referred as what? Synthetic auxins. So what are natural auxins? So you can take natural auxin examples. IAA. What is IAA? You all know very well. Indole 3-acetic acid. Indole 3-acetic acid. What is IAA? Indole 3-acetic acid. Similarly, you can also take 4-chloro-IAA. Even this is a natural one. What is IAA? Indole 3-acetic acid and also 4-chloro-indole acetic acid. Apart from this, phenyl acetic acid. Phenyl acetic acid, PAA, or in some books apart from phenyl they will give it as phenoxyacetic acid. Anything is same. Either you get phenyl acetic acid or phenoxyacetic acid, PAA. These are nothing but examples of natural oxidants. Coming to synthetic oxidants, IBA. What is IBA? Indole butyric acid. What is that? IBA, indole butyric acid. Apart from IBA, you can also take NAA. What is NAA? NAA is nothing but, I write here, naphthalene acetic acid. NaA means naphthalene acetic acid. Similarly, 2,4-chloro phenoxyacetic acid. I hope whether it is visible or not. I'll write here, guys. Synthetic oxidants I am writing here once again. Synthetic oxidants. I am writing here again. What are the examples we discussed? So you can write IBA. What is IBA? Indole butyric acid. NaA, naphthalene acetic acid, and 2,4-dichloro phenoxyacetic acid, that is PAA. Then 2,4,5-trichloro phenoxyacetic acid. Okay, so these all are nothing but what? Synthetic oxidants. These all are nothing but what? Synthetic oxidants. So what are they? IBA, indole butyric acid. NaA, naphthalene acetic acid. 2,4-dichloro phenoxyacetic acid. 2,4,5-trichloro phenoxyacetic acid. So this all will come under synthetic oxidants. And what are natural oxidants? Naturally, which we get from the plant? They are IAA, indole 3-acetic acid, 4-chloro-IAA, phenyl acetic acid. So these will come under what? Natural oxidants. We study both. We have to remember both natural oxidants as well as we find synthetic oxidants. Let's continue further. Now, let us continue with the physiological effects of auxins. Physiological effects means what are the physiological functions? What are the functions of auxins? Physiological effects of auxins means auxins will do what physiological functions. Now, let us take very first one. Now, if you talk about the auxin, this is very important. Let us discuss one by one. Auxins are very important for, the first thing is they will make the formation of female flowers. They will make the formation of female flowers. But before that, in everywhere we studied the common point called cell division and cell elongation. That means auxin plays very important phenomena called growth. So, what is the growth phenomena we say? Cell division, cell elongation followed by cell differentiation. What are the things? Cell division, cell elongation followed by cell differentiation. Why? Because you know it very well. Auxins are present at the tip. Apical meristem undergo cell division. If you question this, why apical meristem will undergo cell division? Remember, it is due to presence of auxins. Auxins will make apical meristem to undergo cell division. Where auxins are rich here, auxins are always rich in the apical meristem or in the lateral meristem, or they are present in the lateral meristem. As auxins are rich in apical meristem and lateral meristem, they make the cell to undergo the process called cell division. That means growth. What is growth here? Is a result of sequence of cell division, elongation and differentiation. Who is responsible for this? Auxins is mainly responsible. Auxins are responsible for making the cells to undergo cell division. Apical meristem, lateral meristem, both will undergo cell division. It is mainly due to the chemical present in the tip or laterally. It is all because of auxins. Right. And the second most important thing is it induces the formation of, A means auxin. Auxin induces the formation of female flowers. Auxin induces the formation of female flowers, especially we find in case of pineapple. Especially we find in case of pineapple. So, what is that? So, if you spray auxin, if you supply auxin to the plant, auxin can make the plant to produce what are called female flowers. So, if you spray externally the auxin, the plant can produce female flowers. I repeat the second point, auxin induces the formation of female flowers. You can take the best example is nothing but what? Pineapple. And the next most important one is, so here place won't be sufficient, let us go with this. Now, auxin does two functions. It prevents abscission in young leaves or young fruits, young leaves and fruits. What's the meaning of this? Auxin will not allow young leaves and fruits not to get fall off. What is abscission here? It is nothing but fall off. They will become dry and they will become fall off. But here auxin prevents abscission. Meaning what? So, auxin prevents fall off of young leaves and fruits. It will not make young leaves to fall. It will not make fruits to get fall. But it makes, or we say it induces abscission. It induces abscission in older leaves older leaves and ripened fruits. In older leaves and ripened fruits. What auxin is doing two functions. One is prevention, other one is make it to happen. What is prevention here? Auxin prevents abscission, meaning what? Fall off. It will not allow young leaves and fruits not to get fall off. It prevents, it will not allow young leaves and fruits not to get fall off. It prevents abscission. Abscission means what? Fall off. Okay, the tissue loses water, it becomes inactive, tissue becomes dry and it makes the fall off leaves, or leaves becomes dry, brown color, they fall off. Fruits also in young stage, if minerals are not sufficient, they will become dry, they loses water, they fall off. So, auxin will protect the young leaves and fruits not to get fall off. So, it prevents abscission in young leaves and fruits, but it makes abscission, means it will make older leaves and ripened fruits to get fall off. See how nicely it is doing functions. It is taking care of the young leaves and young fruits not to fall off. But once leaves become older, once fruits are ripened, it makes them to fall off. So, auxin will do both the functions. Then apart from this, here auxin causes, induces trophic growth. Auxin induces what is called trophic growth. So, what exactly meaning of this trophic growth here? Trophic growth means here mostly we talk about apical dominance, or another trophic growth is nothing but lateral dominance. Apical dominance and other one is lateral dominance. What is this apical dominance? Apical dominance in this case we find some plants apical bud is active, and it's keep growing. So, what occurs here? It's called growth. What I am trying to tell you here, in this case apical bud is active. So, the growth occurs vertically. So, there is increase in length or increase in height. When apical bud becomes active, so here lateral bud is there, somewhere here branches are there, okay, here branches are there. Now, even it want to form the branch, but when apical bud is active, it suppresses the lateral bud. It suppresses the lateral bud, meaning what here? Lateral bud becomes inactive. Lateral bud becomes inactive. That is what is called as apical dominance. So, here apical bud, lateral bud both will talk and both will mutually understand each other. What is that mutually understanding here? When apical bud says, I will take all the nutrients, I will grow, you keep quiet. Lateral bud, you keep quiet, I will only grow. At that time, apical bud will grow in height and it becomes increase in length or height. As apical bud is active and it's growing in length or height, it's called apical dominance. Why it's called dominance? At that time, lateral bud becomes quiet. At that time, lateral bud becomes inactive. That means it suppresses the lateral bud. That's why it's called apical bud dominance. So, how long growth occurs? Only lengthwise. When plant grows up to certain height, then apical bud becomes inactive and lateral bud becomes active, then huge branches takes place. Then that is called as lateral dominance. So, in this case what happens? Apical bud becomes inactive. Here apical bud becomes inactive, but lateral bud becomes active. Lateral bud becomes active. So, what happens? Huge branches formation occurs. Huge branches will form. Very simple. So what is lateral dominance? When lateral bud is active, apical bud becomes inactive. So plant starts growing so many branches, it grows in diameter, it grows in what you call width. So that is what we call lateral dominance. So both of them according to one other will act. I will repeat again, trophic growth. Auxin induces trophic growth. What is the meaning of that? Apical dominance, lateral dominance. What is apical dominance here? So here whenever apical bud is active, means apical bud is keep growing like this, then at that time it suppresses the activity of lateral bud. That means lateral bud becomes inactive. So no growth occurs laterally, growth occurs only in the apical bud. That is why it is called apical dominance. After growing certain height, then what plant will decide? Apical bud becomes quiet, apical bud becomes inactive, then lateral bud becomes active, then huge branches formation takes place, huge branches will form. That is called lateral dominance. So who is responsible for that? Again it is nothing but who? Auxins. Who is that? Auxins. Okay, so especially to make this to happen, it's a good application. I am writing examples here. Generally people will go for decapitations. Decapitation. What is decapitation? Removal of apical bud. Removal of apical bud. It's called decapitation. Removal of apical bud is called decapitation. Thus most commonly employed in tea leaves and hedge making. Okay, so it's a good application example. What is that we are talking about? Decapitation. Decapitation meaning what? Decapping. We are removing the cap. We are cutting the tip. We are cutting the tip. That is called decapitation. When you cut and remove the apical bud. What is decapitation? Removal of apical bud. When you cut and remove the apical bud, then what happens? Apical bud becomes inactive. Lateral bud becomes active. That what happens here is lateral dominance and huge number of branches will form so that you can get more tea leaves, more tea is extracted. Similarly in hedge making also apical dominance is one which controls more growth. So you are removing the apical bud and making the lateral dominance. So from that we can go for hedge making. So decapitation is one of the application. What is decapitation? Removal of apical bud. What happens when apical bud is removed? Lateral growth occurs, and that you find in case of tea leaves and in case of hedge making. So we have discussed this all. Let us repeat once again all the functions. Physiological effects means we are discussing now the functions. What is the first function? Wherever auxin is present, where it is present? In the apical meristem, lateral meristem. What it will do? It contributes for cell division and cell elongation followed by cell differentiation. So for growth phenomena, as you know, apical meristem, lateral meristem both undergo cell division. Who is responsible for that? Auxins. Right. And second one, auxins induces formation of female flowers. Okay, auxins induces formation of female flowers. Especially if you spray auxin externally, and that gives more of female flowers, less of male flowers. Especially you have to remember this happens in case of, most commonly observed in case of pineapple. Similarly, auxin prevents abscission, meaning what? Early fall off. Better you can write down early fall off. It prevents early fall off of young leaves and fruits here. That means it protects young leaves and fruits not to get fall off, whereas induces make it to happen. What it will make it to happen? Abscission in older leaves and ripened fruits, meaning fall off of older leaves and ripened fruits. When leaves becomes older, when fruits becomes ripened, when these two are get fall off, because oxygen will make them to fall off, right? So that is called abscission. Fall off, it's called abscission. Next, oxygen induces trophic growth. Growth means movement, growth. Most commonly, growth occurs due to activity of apical bud. Apical bud is active. What happens if apical bud is active? It suppresses the lateral bud. Lateral bud cannot grow. Lateral bud becomes quiet. Lateral bud becomes inactive. Then growth occurs. There is an increase in length or increase in height. As apical bud is active, it's called apical dominance. Then what is lateral dominance? After growing certain height, certain length, then apical bud becomes inactive. Okay, then lateral bud becomes active. When lateral bud becomes active, there is an increase in diameter, there is an increase in formation of so many branches. As lateral bud is active, this is called lateral dominance. Let us further continue. Some more effects are there, some more functions are there. Let us continue.